welcome to the Black Heroes Matter panel. People are trickling in, and we're just going to get the ball rolling right away. There are so many creators that reached out that want to be on the panel. Obviously, it's packed right now. I look out in the audience, I see some people I know. By a show of hands, who's a creator in some capacity, artist, writer, whatever, okay? And the rest of y'all are fans, right? And the rest of y'all are just great human beings for being here. So I want to, a lot of times in panels like this, they become just a series of preaching to the choir, with us being the preachers, y'all being the choir. And I want to try to stay away from that as much as possible and really get into some interesting dialogue so that when we come out of here, it's not just like there's like 5 really good tweets, but actually we can have some type of better idea of how to make this community that we've been building much stronger, because it's a really big community. And it's a community that's been marginalized. We talk about Black Lives Matter, but it's really, it really is all lives matter. No, it's about all the people who are marginalized and oppressed and who are underrepresented in mass media, popular culture, and then therefore seen as inferior in every walk of life. So I'm not going to read anybody's bios off. I'm just going to make everybody go down the line and give a quick introduction to who they are, what they do. We're going to start all the way down at the end and then work our way back here to me. So I think, Bill, you're on the end, right?
Yeah, my brother.
So just give us a quick thing and then we're going to jump right into it.
Okay. Good afternoon, people. I'm so pleased to be here.
Get close to the mic, man. Get close. Don't be scared now.
My family. I'm Professor William Foster. I'm a comic book historian. I've written 2 books about it. I have 2 more in the hopper. It's a topic that I'm very interested in because the more I look at history, the more I see it repeating itself. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
My name is Tim Fielder. I'm the founder of Diesel Funk Studios, do Manny's Rocket, and also co-founder of Afrofuture Fest, and here at New York Comic Con.
So my name is Javier Cruz-Winnick. I am an author and illustrator of a series of graphic novels called The Reason to Smile. I just debuted volume 2 today, and I'm happy to be here.
Hello, my name is Regine Sawyer. I'm the owner, writer-creator of Lock It Down Productions. I'm also the founder and coordinator of Women in Comics Collective International.
Peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Uraeus. I'm a creator, a writer. I'm the creator of a comic book series called Indigo. That's in Southern Saxon. And also Jason Wise. I'm a proponent of Black Heroes Matter, and I'm also a father.
My name is Mshindo Kuumba. I'm a 33-year veteran of the visual arts medium. I've worked for Marvel, DC, and I've done many comic book created many comics of my own. One I'm working on now is called Anakalapa. He Who Has Death in His Pocket. It would be the first thing that I've written and illustrated. I've done a lot of independent work for a lot of people who are actually here on the panel. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Jennings. I'm a professor of media and cultural studies. I'm co-founder of the Schaumburg Black Comics Festival, the Black Comic Arts Festival in San Francisco, and SoulCon, the Black and Latino Festival in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm also adapting Katie Butler's Kindred, which is out in January. Thank you so much.
I'm Kwanzaa Sajifo, co-creator of Black, a comic book that's out with Black Masters in stores. Well, no, it's sold out, but it's online at Comixology.
I'm Karama, I'm the Blur Girl. I don't have a book, I just talk about theirs.
I'm David F. Walker, currently writing Power Man and Iron Fist for Marvel. Some other stuff for Marvel, Nighthawk, which was unfortunately just canceled, and Occupy Vendors, which kicks off next month. And so we're here to talk about Black Heroes Matter, and it's been an interesting conversation because this whole thing started just a few months ago at San Diego, and it was and I was asked earlier today, well, you know, what is Black Heroes Matter? And I was trying to articulate it, and I realized, well, it's just 3 words that have been strung together address a much larger issue that we're all dealing with, the issues of representation and ending oppression and dehumanization. But what I really want to get into it is with everybody, and you can either jump into it, you can go down the line. What does Black Heroes Matter mean to each of you?
I'll jump on outside.
And all you did was be thinking about an answer.
I'll talk real slow. It matters to me because, from my experience working in the comic book industry, you know, there is just an absence of people of color in the profession and in the content that was about, I think, because of that. So for me, it was about, you know, making sure that there were characters out there that looked like me. Like, I was inspired by people ahead of me, like Milestone and Wayne McDuffie, and I just want to be able to do that for other people and tell stories from our perspective.
I would say that Black Heroes Matter to me because of the narratives that are like a counter to our humanity. America and the sovereignty of this country is kind of based on the dehumanization of our people. That is part of why slavery functions. So, my efforts and my co-founding these particular spaces and creating Black-centric narratives is to rehumanize the Black body, to rehumanize the Black body, because the dehumanization of us, the hacking into of our stories, the decimation of our culture is part of why these particular issues have happened in our country. So I want to create a network of the types of events that enable us to not only empower ourselves economically, but also spiritually and move forward into the Afro future.
Doubling or coming behind John, his comment, for me, discomfort of just walking around doing menial things is disturbing. The level that comfort at home with family is not the same. And I realize that as creators, we have an incredible power that we wield with these comics and narratives that we do, because as they dehumanize us, as the brother suggested, the people who run the municipalities, the judges, police officers, see these same narratives like the one in Birth of a Nation, and that power captures the mind in a way that you start to live towards that person what that narrative suggests. So I try to suggest that we all here have one of the most powerful forces today. It's much more powerful than war, the power of revolution in this room, because art is everything. The concepts of your God is a bit of an artistic thing, because there's an image that comes with that. There's a narrative that comes with that. It suggests that narratives are very strong. So I'm here to change that narrative, because love dominates everything. It should. We have to find a way to be loving again. And I think artists are always key in that. We transform societies by getting into the subconscious of the viewer and the experience of it.
For me, Black Heroes Matter is, I'd say it's an SOS call. It's like the old trope in these shows where you see the red lights going off and the alarm systems down. It's that we've come to a point in culture, a socio-cultural point,
Closer than mine, closer than mine.
where brothers and sisters are being taken out of the street, particularly children. And as a Black father, that's unacceptable. So as creators, we're in unique positions where we can actually create content that shapes people, the way people are perceived, the way people are treated, and we take it seriously. It's comic books and it's fun and it's cosplay, but we take this as seriously as The Middle Passage, or as Nat Turner, or as Emmett Till. So this is serious stuff. And for me, Black Heroes Matter is a quality control, it's a representation control movement. We're setting the bar. As creators, we're setting the bar. We're not going to create anything that's below the line, that represents us in an unflattering or a light that doesn't speak to our greatness. As consumers, the same thing. We're setting the bar. We're not going to consume anything that depicts us as less than what we know ourselves to be, which is some of the baddest people that ever graced the face of this planet. We have a history and a story that goes toe-to-toe with anybody. And that's not to exclude ourselves or put ourselves on any pedestal. That's not necessary. But we just want to be shown in a holistic light. Do we have pimps, gangsters, hoes? Of course. But so does every other community. But if you only show, place focus on that, that's all you're going to believe we are. So when we're killed in the street, you're going to say that's a pimp, a whore, a gangster, not an engineer, an astrophysicist, a history teacher, or a preacher, or a businessman. So that's the point of what we're trying to do, is we're trying to set that bar and maintain a level of equality for consumers and for creators to adhere to. And then that's what it is to me.
Black heroes matter to me. For the simple fact, when I see a young girl of color coming up to my booth or one of our members' booths and saying, "Oh my God, you have a book of a child, of a girl that looks like me." And the tears in their eyes sometimes, and their hands shake a little bit because they can't believe what they're seeing. Seeing something positive, seeing something beautiful. Yes, there are characters in the mainstream. There's so much more. There's a breadth of characters of color on the indie scene. So when I see that, my heart is full and I'm crying with them. Because we've provided, our collective has provided something that they resonate with, something that feels good to them. And that's what Black heroes matter to me.
So for me, Black Heroes Matter is everything that's been said, as well as the fact that we are here. And oftentimes we're not seen in the way that is mainstream. We're not seen in the way that is normal. And a lot of us are creating to show that normalcy, that average, that we're a part of what's going on in the world. And I don't feel that we can continue to allow our voices to not be heard. And that's part of why I do what I do. Because I feel like everything else has already been done. Our stories haven't been told, and if we don't tell our stories, who's going to tell them? So that's why Black Heroes Matter. That's why we're here. So I want to thank you guys for all being here and showing that that's the truth. Because it could have been 20 people here. It could have been 5 people here, but you guys are all here in mass. White, black, green, Asian. I see your faces, I see you. I appreciate you all for knowing.
Just really quick before we go down, I just want to add to that because that's what I keep talking about is Black Heroes Matter is really about community. And we are a community that does, and I'll get into this a little bit more, that does not actually fully understand its strength as consumers and our strength as human beings, which we're going to touch upon in just a little bit, but let's keep going down.
For myself, I guess I relate to it a little bit interesting in terms of Black Heroes Matter. I was joking with John. We call myself Blip Van Blinkle, man out of time, because I was in the industry back in 86, 87, and I worked till the implosion in the mid-90s. I was out for 15 years, and now, I mean, representation, I mean, we are here, we're in every pore of this building, we're cosplayers, creators, writers. You have some folks who are nationalists, you have some folks who are just completely mainstream, you have some folks who are indie. And representation is an important thing. It's a very important thing. It's a very poignant thing. But I can tell you from having leapfrogged for 10, 15 years and now being here, we are in very, very good shape. We have the ability to create, to ignore. No, we don't have to ask for permission anymore. We have a 15 billion pounds during the New York Comic Con, all scheduled at the same time. That's a miracle. And that's a wonderful thing to be a part of. So Black Heroes Matter is a part of that. It's an important part of it, and let's just keep it going.
For me, it's personal and it's historical. If you, everyone in this audience, closed your eyes and someone said, imagine a police officer shooting a kid, how hard would you have to fight to see the race of the kid and the police officer? I do that with my students every year, and they say, oh, it's not my fault. I said, wait a minute, I wasn't in your head. I just told you to get a vision in your head. I didn't call race, I didn't even say urban, which is a key word for black. But I wanted you to think about how strong that image is. When I grew up, shut up. When I grew up, they always kid me, yeah, Grandpa, tell us what it was like in the old days. Well, food was horrible. I grew up as a young man in Philadelphia. To this day, I have to fight this. If a white woman's walking in front of me, I back up. Because I didn't have to do anything for her to say she's nervous and I'm going to be snatched and taken downtown. And if you know anything about Philadelphia, ask somebody about the Roundhouse, police headquarters, 2 stories above ground, 4 stories below. And if you went below, your chances of coming out unscathed were almost impossible. That's what I grew up with. So when I became a comic book historian, I still meet people who say, there are black comic books? Yeah. They've been around a long time. The convention we have in Philadelphia every May, it's ironic we have in Philadelphia the first all-black comic book created there in 1947, all Negro comics, by a black reporter who basically said he got tired of no black people in comic books and certainly no positive roles. As a historian, I can tell you, if there were never African Americans, unless they were rolling dice or wielding a razor, or trying to talk some jive and they were dancing. All the Africans, they were just Africans, and then they were not even, represented well. The times, if you look at this table, has truly changed. Swells my heart too, in that somebody wasn't discouraged by there wasn't something before. And when somebody sees us, they won't be discouraged about creating their own. The very first convention we had, the 2 ends of the spectrum was this. 17-year-old young black boy created his first comic book. A gentleman who came and asked, could he join us? He didn't even assume that he had a place there. And just did his first illustrations of black people in advertising in the 1953's newspapers. So we were well represented. Had a brother come down from Canada, he heard we were doing something. So, and this room is full. Let's be real. There was a time where some people who were genuine devotees would show up and nobody else would. We have changed the way we are viewed. You have changed the way we are viewed. When we have a convention that said we have a black comics, I can't tell you people, is it okay if white people come? Yeah! It's not like the old days where, well, we don't need you. Yeah, we do. Because our voices can't be everywhere. We need you to carry our voices places we can't go, just like we carry your story as well. That just makes sense to me. I'm going to stop now because we got to start doing
Just to add to what Will was saying, because also you're like, this is what I want to say. Because one of the things that happens in media is that stuff gets turned around a lot. So Black Heroes Matter doesn't mean that no one else does. For some reason, that keeps getting turned around. It doesn't mean that no one else does. You just reminded me that we matter too. And it also doesn't, and the whole concept of Black Heroes Matter in the writing creative space doesn't mean that all those heroes are cis heterosexual males either. See what I'm saying? So we, even within our culture, we have all these different layers and languages and codes that have yet to be explored. So it's really big and it's really vast, and just like Bill said, it's not like, oh, well, no, it's only us over here and nobody else is allowed to see it, or hear it, or look at it, or read it, because then it won't grow. So I just want to make that point, because it's all about us seeing ourselves not being victims as being heroes, so that people reading, when they're looking at the craziness that's happening in real life, they can, you know, when you want to escape, you want to see yourself leading again. You know what I mean? You want to see yourself leading and rising and going above. And so that's what's really, really important, especially right now when the evil empire is running for president.
When you look at what myth is, where myth came from, myths and religion and fables, fairy tales were all meant to explain how human beings interact with their environment. It was to make sense of the world around them. Sometimes to make sense of the things that made no sense, like why did that big bright thing in the sky go down and then it became dark and then those little points of light came out. That's where myth came from. It's to explain how we live. Okay, same with religion. And I'm not saying that religion is a myth. I'm just saying religion was born out of human beings need to understand who we are and why we're here. And we live in a time of a new mythology that's being created. It's been going on now for well over 100 years. It really took root in this country through the form of the motion picture. And then with the motion picture, the advent of pop culture as we know it, printed media, and myth began to grow. But myth grew only within the constructs and confines and ideology of white supremacy. And so a lot of us were left out of that mythology. We lack our own mythology. We lack an explanation as to why we are here, what we are doing here, and what role we serve other than the role of the pimp, or the hustler, or the dope dealer, or all these negative images that are all ultimately dehumanizing. So when we talk about Black Heroes Matter, what we're talking about is creating a new mythology that explains how we are, who we are, why we are human beings, and why we matter. Because it all comes down to that one thing, that we are not, most people, I'd say nobody in this room is this human being. We're not considered human beings because none of us are rich. I'm sure none of us are billionaires. None of us own property. None of us have the capacity to run a multi-billion-dollar presidential campaign on lies. Those are the people who think they're human beings, right? And they constantly remind us that we are not human beings. So what Black Heroes Matter, and as Karama just said, it isn't just about Black men or Black women. We're getting into issues of women, we're getting into issues of people with disabilities, with LGBT community, all sorts of people. Those people's lives matter, and what we're trying to do, what we need to do as a community, is to begin to understand that it's all connected, right? Because the moment you allow one group of people to be oppressed, it just means you're waiting in line for your turn, okay? And a lot of people turn a blind eye, oh, that will never happen to us. And I'm like, yeah, no, what's happening to Black folks in the streets right now in cities all across this country, eventually they'll run out of enough of us to kill, and then they're just gonna move on to the next group. And then there'll be people who'll be like, oh shit, maybe we should have said something. So what I wanna get into now is really what it is that we can do to build this community. Because I see, I spend enough time on the internet, most of the time I just see people fighting over things, They don't like this, they don't like that. Oh, I can't believe Marvel did it this way. They don't care. DC didn't do it this way. They don't care. Well, DC doesn't care, so.
I thought I said that, like it was like in my head.
But I think that and I see some of the creators out in the audience, and there's a lot on the panel too, that are, and I gotta admit, I'm fortunate. I'm the guy who won the lottery ticket, right? I'm working at basically almost the highest level you can work in mainstream comics, and it really was. It was a lot of hard work, but I got really lucky. But I'm still in the trenches, and I'm still looking around, and I'm still supporting people, and I'm still doing independent projects. So what I want to kind of get into is that how we as a community can continue to build what we have here. Because what we have here right now, allow me to get up at the podium and speak for a moment, is I'm not gonna bullshit anybody in this room. Like, this is the equivalent to the Harlem Renaissance, what's going on right now, okay? And I know that sounds like a lot of hubris and a lot of ego to say this. Like on this panel right now, these are some of the baddest, excuse my language, motherfuckers in the world.
Yeah.
And the thing is that during the Harlem Renaissance, when all these artists and so many of us know and love and respect were going through what they were going through, most of them were thinking, yeah, I think this is happening, but I'm not 100% sure, which is what we're all doing right now. And it becomes ours to lose. Like, they can't take it from us. They think they can take it from us, but we can find all these different ways. And it's the same thing with hip-hop. Hip-hop eventually got co-opted, I believe, but there was a time when it was born in the streets where it was ours, okay? And we made it work and we made it happen. We made it into, there are people on parts of this planet who have never met a black person in their life, but they are still impacted by hip-hop every single day. It's in the music we listen to, it's in the fashion. And so what I want to talk about is how do we make sure that this moment that we're in isn't just a moment and isn't just a footnote? Because I think that the history of comics and the history of blacks in comics, like the whole new book needs to be written. It needs to be written right now. We are not a chapter. We are the next volume. And all of y'all are part of that volume. That's the key thing. It's not just us, because we can't do it alone. People who raise their hands, Stacey Robinson out there who's a creator, we can't do it alone. Show, again, creators, raise your hand real quick. Okay, see, yeah, a round of applause for our creators. That man, he's like on fire. He's done some, like, I can't remember, what's the name of your movie?
Machetero.
Okay, has anybody seen this movie? All right, well afterwards go talk to this cat, because you gotta see it, because this is the movie the man doesn't want you to see. You know what I'm saying? And there's comics, comic black, I guarantee you, is a comic the man doesn't want us to see. We don't need to deal with the man. So let's get into this. I want to talk about some strategies. Okay, Tim's like, he's jumping.
I teach at the New York Film Academy, so I have to tell the students this all the time. So you have content creators, then you have content creators, you have movie makers, right? Now, you have content creators, you have comic book content. So what's happening now is that because of the way that people create, consume, and distribute media is all digital at this point, right? Sure, you can still go to a store, but even the way this comic here or that comic there was made, they were all made digital. So because of that, the way that people consume that media and absorb that media, it's completely different than it was even 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I have a 16 and 17-year-old in my house, and they don't care about even Netflix. They care about YouTube. Can I access my videos on YouTube? Dad, did you pay the internet bill? That's their concern. So as a result of understanding that and taking into consideration Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu, all of the primary IPs were purchased by 5 companies. Those are gone. So now all of the executives, all of the independent makers have to actually find IPs somewhere else. And that's you. That's us. And trust me, they're going to find it. They're going to find it. So you could either wait for them to give you the money to do it, or you could do it yourself, just like everyone up here is doing, and many folks in the audience are doing. So the tools are there. It's like a $6 million man. You have the technology, use it.
There's some people who don't know the $6 million man.
One of the things I want to bring up real quick, because I get this a lot as a blogger, viewer, writer. We have to get away from this notion, because I see this happen on social media sometimes. I'm not going to support DC or Marvel anymore, I'm just going to support indie. It doesn't work that way. The majority of the people of color, women, whoever, that you're fans of, that are working at DC and Marvel and Valiant and Image are contract work, they're freelance artists. So if you stop supporting the comic book, you will stop supporting them because they won't get hired again because their book didn't sell. See what I'm saying?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You need so when, yes, I'm not an either or person when it comes to this. I'm really, really big on the and. So yes, I am going to buy Volume 1 of Nighthawk when it comes out in January. But I also supported Black on Kickstarter. See what I'm saying? Like, we have to support the work. Now, I am all for not supporting it if it's crap. I'm not one of those people. Yeah, no, I'm not one of those people who's like, yes, all of the things, even though it looks like it was drawn by a 3-year-old. No. We also have to start criticizing a little of our own work too. I am not the person that's like, yes, everything that every single person of color does should be supported because we just need to get one out there. No, we're out there. Curate. But when it comes to what you're reviewing and talking about online, you can't boycott all the things because all of the artists are going to suffer. And you also might be affecting another artist at the place. Like Nighthawk, I'm bringing it up again, but that book didn't make it. But we don't want that to affect another person of color or female artist or whoever at the same company by them saying, well, you know, we put all our money behind this and it didn't sell, the numbers weren't there, why should we do it again? Because they are lumping everybody into the same category. So I just want to make sure that the way you can help is by reading and buying all the things that you like. If you see something that you like and you see something that you want, buy it, support it. Also, if it sucks, say so. So they will stop printing the stuff that sucks.
It's not just the impact is double, because it's not just necessarily on the creator if something doesn't go well, especially at corporate level. It also means like, oh, well, Nighthawk didn't sell, which means Black comics don't sell. Like, Marvel isn't doing that. I'm going to be 100% honest. They are not doing that. Like, I know about stuff that I can't talk about because there's somebody watching me as sniper right now.
Marvel Disney sniper is real.
But, you know, the thing is that it's a combination of, it's a weird combination of the creative force, but it's also a weird combination of just the content itself. And so I see a lot of people going, oh, well, I'm not going to read such and such because they don't have a woman writing it. And it's like, well, right now you need to understand how the industry works. And they haven't identified, for whatever reason, a woman, and oh my God, I've been swearing, and that young man is in here. I am so sorry. I am so... Okay, but brother, I am... And he's sitting right in front of me.
I was taking notes.
To me, the best. That's from his grandmother.
Yeah.
One of the reasons. One of the reasons the 60s was so powerful is because the room looked like this. And people thought that they could separate us by race or class or gender. They felt they were in control of us. But when we started forming coalitions, when we started going around the conduits of major markets, everybody wanted a piece of us. Everybody. If it's about commerce, you have an appreciation of that and you run them. But the idea was, when we got together as white and black and older and younger, I have my students, I have to correct them all the time. Martin Luther King fought for black people. Have you taken a look at any of the photographs from the Civil Rights era? Catholics, Jews, Protestants,
Charlton Heston
white,
was
were
on
all together fighting for the same cause. They were fighting for what was important. And
And that's just more powerful than anything else. If you're looking for how we will change the face of the world, this room is changing it already. So it's the beginning, but like we were saying, don't forget, is that we could easily, if you're creating a good story that has African American or powerful images of women or powerful images of people who are of, I don't know what sexual orientation, thank you. Because I haven't, we use so misnomers when we use English language so much. Then you are creating positive work, which means you could be sitting up here too. So there was a time when the Black Panthers came out, and people had trouble with that, and you had the Black Muslims, and people had trouble with that. But the idea is that instead of having that occasion when there's a war and suddenly we're all equal for 5 minutes until you don't need us no more, we decide for ourselves that we are linked and that we are working for a common cause. We changed the face of the world. We were the first generation that had an appreciation of what young people around the world were doing. World War II, they didn't have a damn idea what was going on, but we had Eric the Red. We knew what was going on in Europe. We knew what was going on. The book that came out, the comic book, put out by the United Council of Churches in 1956, talking about the March on Selma, okay, that Martin Luther King was involved in. If you've ever heard of Arab Spring, they translated that book into 4 or 5 different languages, and they used that as a role model to shape their revolution. Martin Luther King got his from Gandhi. People in the Arab Spring got it from us. It's an infectious disease. Freedom, justice, equality. And I know how sometimes we get caught up. I watch TV, God help me, and I watch this stuff that's just like, why the hell is this on TV? But that's okay, because if I can, it's just like anything else. If you guys don't know this, the reason you have cable so cheap as you have it, I know it seems expensive, but I can guarantee you it'd be a lot more expensive if they took porn off. Porn pays for cable, and I'm sorry for those church folks here sitting getting excited. So the idea is, don't let the idea where it starts, the idea starts make you crazy. When you're going to take it is the most important thing.
I wanted to jump in on that really quick because all of what you were saying is making me think about, the 2 words that I hate the most in the English language. And it's them and they. There is no them and they, there's just us. And a lot of people forget that, especially in politics. It's always like finger pointing, like some groups other and some groups not me, but that's not how this works. We're all in this together. And so when you talk about like this creative collective that we're discussing, like it's about us. It's not about one group or one set of people. That's just what was on my mind.
That makes sense.
I'll say something. There's a saying that greatness is a lot of small things done well. And for this movement to be really great, and it is a movement and it is a renaissance, for it to be really great, it's not about what we're doing at Marvel or DC or whatever comic book we're writing. It's about the small conversations that you guys have. When you go back to wherever you're coming from, the small conversations, or the conversations you have with your kids, with your coworkers, with people on the internet, that revolve around just representation and seeing us and seeing people in a light that is, a beautiful light. Just talking. It's just the conversations. One of the great things about this T-shirt, Black Heroes Matter, is the picket sign that's been transformed to a T-shirt, and it allows us to have so many unexpected and wonderful conversations with people who we never thought would be in solidarity with what we're trying to promote. People, to see the different faces in here is just truly heartwarming that we have so much support from different corners of the globe, from different ethnicities, and it's a beautiful thing. But for us to really truly take this to another level, we've got to have some difficult conversations with each other, about some difficult topics, because there's a lot of hurt, and this is a healing movement. So what we're doing is we're trying to heal hurt. So I mean, the tool that we're using is comic books, animation, TV, movies. But I mean, when we really come down to it, it's about self. The superhero genre was designed to entertain. Yeah, that's great. But if you're missing the point that it was designed to teach all of us to manifest the hero within yourself. If you're missing that point, you're missing the boat. Manifest the hero within yourself. Take it back to your community, wherever you're going. shine that light. So manifest it here within yourself and then pour it outward. That's what we're trying to say. That's what Black Heroes Matters means is that.
I want to
represent that.
Yeah. I was going to open it up to questions in a moment, but to add to that, a lot of people who don't know the history of comic books in America don't realize that it was a largely Jewish medium. It was created by Jewish artists who could not get work otherwise because of anti-Semitism. And so this celebration that we're here at is based on this art form of what was considered at the time trash work done by people who were unemployable immigrants otherwise. And they built this incredible empire that was comic books. A lot of them left the East Coast and went to the West Coast and formed Hollywood. There's nothing stopping us from creating our own empires. We've had them before. Bill knows all about this sort of stuff because there's a whole history of Black published comics back in the days when our comics couldn't be published other places, just like film. If you don't know who Oscar Michaud is, that's your homework for tonight. Go home and look up Oscar Michaud. Anyone with any questions, come on up. There's microphones up here. Right? We're going to have to wrap up real soon. Karma's got an announcement though before we end, right? You got an announcement.
Yeah, I don't need one. I would have.
Man, right here.
That's sweet.
Introduce yourself too, please.
Hi, I'm Terrence Bolton Johnson. Right now I'm cosplaying Dusu from a inclusive fantasy comic book where we've tried to create the world as it is today. I love Harry Potter, I love Lord of the Rings, but everyone could be from downtown London. What we do is we try and we have in Africa, we have in Asia, we have in Europe, we have a troll, an elf, a dwarf, many of those places. Powers and things are from those places, just trying to include everyone. My question is, from your perspective, and I know there's probably a ton of stories you guys can't tell us from folks you work for, because you won't toss anybody under the bus, but what is the best way for us to, I understand what you're saying, not necessarily boycott Marvel or DC, but when something wrong happens there and they stop something that you feel you should have been able to do, what's the best way for us as fans to do that? Like, again, I don't want to boycott them if it's going to hurt someone, but like write letters, who do we send this stuff to when we see that you're being stopped from doing what you'd like to do?
You want me to answer it, or should I? Oh, everyone's looking at me like, you're this boo sat by the door.
Experience is powerful.
The best thing to do is you look at who the editors of that particular comic are. You send them well thought out emails with and not some anonymous name, not like, Angry Negro 20,000. you send a well thought out answer, a response, what your concerns are. No one likes to be attacked. So you don't need to go on the attack. We had a situation recently, something that really offended somebody in Power Man and Iron Fist, and she blew me up on Twitter. And I ignore a lot of that stuff, really, because otherwise you just get depressed. But for whatever reason, I felt the need to respond, because she tweeted at me 20 times. And I said, everything that you're saying is valid. I have no control over it. And you're telling me is screaming in the wind. You have to address this with editorial. And that's what it is. It's just about saying, people asked how can we save Nighthawk? And it was real simple. 20,000 more people needed to buy it. That's what
Pre-order it.
And pre-order, not just buy it. And so you need to understand how the industry works. And it was interesting to me because I was because there was a lot of angry people when Nighthawk got canceled, right? There was not a single petition to save Nighthawk. There was no collective force. There was just a lot of angry voices screaming. And my thing was well, I'm already moving on. So even if there had been a petition, I was already moving on to the next project. And so that's it. But it's about being be the exact opposite of a Trump supporter. Seriously, you don't have to resort to crazed rhetoric. Just, be as intelligent as we can be. It's as simple as that.
I think another thing that I can speak to from personal experience is get on the other side of the table, become that. Like a lot of my experience working between Marvel and DC was, about me finding other creators of color to tell their kind of stories like Jeremy Loves Bayou. And I don't know if you ever read it, but check it out.
Just coming out again next year, a big, massive collection of Bayou, and he's finishing it too, by the way. He was supposed to be here, but
I snuck that in on DC. They weren't even paying attention. That was the first thing I went after. So you gotta get behind that table. That's what's gonna change the industry or bring positive change, because it's not malicious or anything, but those editorial staff, they don't have that perspective. It's like a bunch of people of one ethnicity, so they're not woke to that kind of stuff. So apply to those jobs.
And they might not be necessarily. This was we had on Friday night. Somebody talked about this. You don't know that you haven't seen it, so you haven't seen it. Oh, I didn't realize I hadn't seen a black comic. This is a black comic. Wow. Or a comic with an Asian character or a First Nations character or what have you. So sometimes people aren't being malicious. They've just never seen it before, so it's not even in their purview to even think about this being, a concept.
I think also another thing that helps to build on that too. Think about hip hop. When we first started out in the parks, started out with us doing our thing on our own, and we built on it. We would call it a joke, rap is crap, all kinds of different rhetoric that was thrown around about it for years. And when it started, this is probably going to cause some controversy, but when Biggie and Tupac had their beef and it became international, and Vibe started covering it, and Rolling Stone started covering it, and now there's money being made outside of our money being made. Then the corporation started saying, we got to do something about this. That's when I saw hip hop change. And it started changing in a way that was not what we were producing. So when we miss a Nighthawk, or we miss another book, we miss a milestone, I feel that we still need to continue to support those that are creating outside of the realm, so that way they can see there's money being made outside and we're not making that money. We got to do something about that. Which is why I believe Empowerment and Iron Fist is doing so well. And all the other books that are out there, because they're seeing our money is real. Our consumership is real. So if you support the people that are creating all these different things, these corporations will start paying attention to us. Our money talks. That's what they listen to.
Can I relate that to something else too, my brother? Often when we're at a convention, I'm usually certain everybody has the same experience. Some young person will come up and say, how can I get into the industry where it's selling? And then you have to make a choice. Are you about making some ducats, or are you about creating art? Everybody at this table has made their choice. And there will always be somebody who wants you to do something for money. Is that the thing that motivates you to be real and hang with that? Because you're going to have to run a lot faster than you think you will to keep up with it. And what's supposedly hot changes every day. So, And if you're creating your own work, there will always be something relevant to be said. This is about storytelling. It's like when I walk and sit and think, it's about storytelling. If you really just want the money, rob banks. You'll be so much more happy. Because you have
an accountant.
That's right, yeah. Oh yeah, that too.
Incentive tanks. There's money in incentive tanks.
Well, yeah, this is what you make money. If money is the thing that motivates you, somehow people are convinced that the idea of writing and drawing is easy. No, it's not. Nor researching. It's sad, but if it's worth your time, do it. If you have an idea and you have some energy to put into it, it's like there's a game, Eric Byrne, psychiatrist, wrote a book called Games People Play. And one of the games is Yes But. Well, I want to start writing comic books. Well, that's going to take more time. Yes, but I do so much. Well, then you really get into I probably want to go to college and study something. Yes, but that would just, it's always something as opposed to doing. Doing it is the big part. And if you bring yourself around to that, I have people ask me all the time, how do you do everything? And I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm not doing enough. There's so much more to do. You know. Oh, and by the way, if you are a creative person, let me give you a hint. This is what's going to happen. You're going to die without all your projects completed, but don't let that stop you.
All right, on that note, we're running the next question. We're probably only have time for another 2 or 3, just so you know, so let's be quick. Thank you.
My name is Marlene Rubio. I'm a civil rights advocate and civil rights attorney. You earlier addressed transformation and housing and employment. So my question is to you, talking about the dichotomy of they and them, and bridging to that higher level. How do you address through your own mediums white privilege, male privilege, elitism, things like classism, things like that, to create a new society or a better society or a different society?
Well, in my story, I really try to analyze through the superhero narrative, really perspectives and motivations, because there's no real villains in the story. Like people always ask me, oh, the white people are bad guys. I'm like, no, they're not. That's not what's going on in the story. But people are driven by whatever their narrative is, and it's exploring that and really digging into those motivations and humanizing it, even if it's bad. You know, sometimes people make bad decisions and it's just based off their history or misinformation they're having. But I think that's the way to really bring those things to the forefront, is to not just trivialize them. It seems like they're one-dimensional. Or you're just a racist. It's like, no, maybe you haven't been exposed to certain information that might change your perspective on it. So that's kind of how I'm trying to address it with people flying.
Have one way that I like to address it, and it's a little bit different than how he spoke it. If I do a reversal on the narrative, it causes you to now ask me why are a certain group portrayed that way. To me, that is a good way to have the conversation. Because if you look at the response to Cage is being called racist, but Friends isn't. So why does it require for racism to have a black face before it's recognized in media? I thought that was very odd. So if I make the villains white in my story, and you ask me why is that, I'll answer you by showing you what has been normalized, which is my disenfranchisement. So that's another way. And storytelling is so broad in its function that it doesn't have to come from a level of hatred, but if your true intent is clarity and looking at the larger story, then the intent and the ideas that you want to forward may actually be realized, especially if it comes from a sincere place in you.
All right, let's get the next question because we're running out of time. It's getting bad.
Okay, well, I got to go. My name is Chester Ferguson. I'm with RodNavigaStudios.com. David, I just want to say, Hero Magazine, Badass Mofo, changed my life. Reviews off the hook. You introduced me to A-Ball and Black Superman. And I didn't know anything about that movie. And I was just wondering, can you both, that's just a real question. The real question is, they had a lot of collectors in the 90s, like collectors, and they didn't succeed. They all fell apart. We just got milestone, but there was a few others. Why do you think that happens?
I think it's...
To me and everybody,
Well, someone else can answer it, but what I'll say is a lot of it is because it's based upon it's where you're getting your money and your funding. And so if you go to a big corporation or go to investors and you aren't controlling the revenue stream, you're not controlling where the money's coming from, then they control you. And they can decide at any minute to cut you off at the knees. That's the short answer for me. Anyone else want
My
to
short answer is, why would you go to the Hood Church on every corner? Same reason.
And you deal with human beings as well. So I mean, it's like, why can't all families this ego, this internal strife, this separation of people? So the same way that people can't get along on a street corner or in a house, it's the exact same thing.
So how do we make sure that doesn't happen this time?
It's going to be a challenge. But there's an immediacy as far as what's going on right now, whereas ego Indigo is put to the side. You know, what's focus. He's in the street, being killed. It's an immediacy where we can't, ego has to be brushed aside.
You know, we lose focus all the time. I mean, how do we make sure that doesn't happen?
Part of the solution is access. Kwanzaa just did an amazing thing with this comic, The Black, and he did it with Kickstarter. That's an amazing thing that was never around for anybody, ever. Where you now have access to the world and let them know that you have a platform and you have this thing that you brought to the stage. I have my book for the same reason. I didn't have to go to Marvel or DC or Scholastic or whomever and say, hey, I have this story, can you publish it, please? I said, hey, my people, you guys, you know me coming up, starting as a little kid, drawing and creating stories. I finally have a book. And everyone's like, I got you, I got you, I got you. I'm gonna support. Support your people, support your friends, support your creators that you like.
The question takes an entire other panel.
This is a simple thing, because we're out of time. You can't worry about it. We can't. You just got to do what you got to do, right? Like, I mean, I literally had to declare bankruptcy at one point from publishing bad as a mofo. There's a reason I'd still be publishing today if I hadn't lost that much money, but I didn't quit. I didn't stop doing it. You each get out a pen and paper, whatever, your memo on your smartphone, because I'm going to give you the best thing you're going to hear all day, right? This is it, is that we have to define success on our own terms. And by our own terms, I mean as individuals, each one of us. And I guarantee you the vast majority of people in this room have a really bad definition of success, because their definition of success is based on someone else's, and it has to be your own. They can't take it away from you. Hey, so milestone went away, so what? Something else is going to go away some other time. It all goes away. We just keep rebuilding. You knock it down, you rebuild it, you get up. We have two things happen to us in our life. We're born and then we die. Everything that we do in between that, it's up to us. And we can't allow, it is soul crushing at times, but we just keep going. We got time for one more question, so I want to get this brother in right here. And then he's going to focus us outside.
Quick question, can any one person speak to a defining moment that made you decide to create your own representation?
Having children.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I created Jason Wise, my franchise character, is because I want my children, I have 3 boys, I want them to be able to see someone who looks like them save the world. That's my elevator speech.
Can we hear from Regine on that question?
We want the juice. When I was 17 years old, I created a story called The Rivers, because I walked into my local library and I was flipping through manga, and in the manga there was a woman being sexually assaulted for about 30 pages. And then the following book after it was the same. And it affected me so deeply that I said to myself, there has to be something else. There has to be more. And if someone else can't make it, I will. So I'm not the best artist. I just started drawing out the characters. I started writing out the story. And before you know it, I had something. And I guess about 10 years later, I published my first book.
I've been drawing. I'm a self-taught artist, right? I used to do a lot of comic books as a child, as many of us have. And I did this team with a good 50 characters in it. Multicultural. However, inspecting, and I don't know why my mind went into this mode, but inspecting the characters and their nationalities, I looked at what I created and realized that all of the white characters were in the control positions. And at that moment, I changed the course of every piece of work that I did so that I kind of changed that narrative and told the story from the personal point of view, which usually is very desirable for the public because there's a certain level of love that they feel from you as the creator. But that showed me that there was some algorithm working subconsciously in my thoughts. Because who else creates that way? Nobody does. You normally create from your experience.